little bit, going to tell you about dealing with the Jezebel spirit. But first I want to say, you see my kind of new environment. I moved into a new location, got back in my house that I owned. So I set up my studio here for this entertainment purposes and to tell the truth of the substance matter, because this is the reality of the world that we live in. And not trying to be always critical and talking bad, but there's nothing really good to say. I mean, you see a little bit of good people, opening doors and stuff for each other, but I can't help to say that was what I started back in the day, that I just see now is prospering and blooming in these modern eras, because it wasn't like that, about 5-10 years, it wasn't like that 10 years ago. It wasn't even like that 5 years ago when I made a comment out here online about how the kids these days are disrespectful, uncourteous to their females out here. And it's kind of due to what I'm seeing these modern days, how these females are behaving, trying to find protection underneath the, Air Force State, Kansas military, occult, cuntins, trying to one-sided, blindfolded people protecting their own people, evil, vindictive ways, rather than standing for Lord Jesus Christ, how it's written in the Holy Bible, and how the Constitution and Bill of Rights is written. Because if you break down the Bill of Rights, you can find every moral principle of how they're supposed to conduct themselves, how it's written in the Holy Bible. And that's their whole circle. I've talked in a different video, but we're going to tell you about the stories about the Jezebel dealing with the spirit. So, I got in this house. I had to tell you a little backstory. I got in this house. I guess I inherited a cat with the house that I moved back into, because there's a stray cat in the neighborhood, a female cat, and a few other tomboy cats. And I just seen her, she's not fixed. So I was going to take a little bit of cash and money and go get her fixed, to have this, be responsible for the community. So there's not a bunch of little kittens, because there's already 2 or 3 cats running around the neighborhood. So here I'm trying to do something nice for the community, and then I'm calling up veterinarians. I got a few different prices. I was like, oh, okay, those seem a little bit high, because it's just a stray cat. I wasn't trying to spend, couple hundred or not, not even 150. I wasn't trying to spend for a stray cat, type situation. But nonetheless, I called up this one place, and this is the story where I ran and encountered the Jezebel spirit. A secretary answered the phone. Well, first of all, let me apologize. I'm not very good at storytelling, so I hope I tell this story properly. A secretary answered the phone, and I'm like, so how much is this pay? I kind of told her the situation I'm in and what I'm looking for, and how I'm trying to, just what I'm doing, She was dodging all the questions I was asking. She couldn't give me a full price. I asked for an estimated price. She, from a couple $100 where everyone else was, it jumped up to $700 to $900. She couldn't even give a $200 estimate. She couldn't break. That's an estimate for her, $200 price range, and $700-800. So it's triple everything else around the area, practically. At least double or triple that I've got from other areas, from other people. But nonetheless, that's the situation we're doing. And then when she was dodging the questions, she was rude. She was inconsiderate. And I'm like, is there anything else you can do to make this cheaper, since it's just a stray cat and I moved in this house? And she suggested I murdered a cat. That was her final conclusion, is to suggest I murdered a cat. So I called her cruel and inconsiderate that time. And she's like, if you're going to call me cruel and inconsiderate, and she hung up. I'm going to hang up. And she hung up immediately, So she hung up on me. These people couldn't even look in a mirror. I threw a little comment down to Google Online, because I called right back. A male secretary answered, and the owner or the supervisor, I asked for a supervisor or a manager, but none of them was available. There was no supervisor, manager, or owner in the facility. So no wonder this Jezebel spirit thought she was going to just get away with doing whatever she wants. And then she probably goes and butt kiss, what they teach them in these state universities, how to kiss ass these days. Oh, that's 5 minutes. I'm supposed to be going through this, trying to get this done quickly. And I hope this is recording voice-wise, because I had issues last time on voice recording, So, nonetheless, That's the Jezebel spirit that I dealt with. For her final choice to suggest murder instead of suggesting a cheaper competitor somewhere else. And that's a veterinarian. That's how this Jezebel spirit is. There's no remorse for her. They claim that they're standing for animal rights and animal. That's why they're in their positions and why they went through their schools. But really deep down inside, they're just trying to get rid of the customers, or not only purposely get rid of certain customers who's trying to do what's right. They want their customers who are greedy, envious, and is willing to pay $700 to $900 for a cat just for them to have them spayed or neutered. So they're looking for greed. And then on this Google comment, the lady made a comment, back to me, and like she's covered her area for 4 years. Well, that's a shame that she covered 4 years. But nonetheless, I call it a Jezebel spirit. This is what is being fostered by these politicians who took oaths in the state of Kansas and begins in this Topeka area, all the way spreads out throughout the whole state like a virus. Throughout all these corporations and companies thinking that's the correct behavior. And here's another reflection, because it moves from place to place. I say spirit, or they all are acting the same, like the same Jezebel spirit. You answer me that one. Because nonetheless, I go to this other place. Well, it's Home Depot, so let's just say. And I go in there, we're going to talk about the story right now, and then I'll tell you the similarities of the two. Because it's two different scenarios, but there's similar actions and behaviors to their positions and their store principles and values. So I go to Home Depot. I go buy an 8x4 plywood. I'm needing to cut down a couple times, to the right size I need. So I go back, I don't see anyone, first of all. Finally, I seen someone, seemed like they're clocking in by the back, by the saws where I'm needing cut. I asked this kid, can you find someone, or can you cut this board for me? He's like, give me about 5 minutes and I can probably have someone over here. And then he took off. I didn't see the kid until later on when there's a different person there who couldn't help us, but I didn't see that kid later on down the road. Nonetheless, I sat there about 10 minutes. I couldn't find no one, no one came by. I went and walked around for 5 minutes, left my stuff there and walked around for 5 minutes trying to find someone. Couldn't find no one walking by. So I went back, sat down. And then there's this other lady who needed some help. So I heard on the intercom 2 times that they called for assistance at the cutting station. So they was obviously acknowledging there was people at the cutting station, one for me and one for this other lady that came to the back, with her stuff while I was sitting there. And then while I was sitting there was a third person that came up here. So a third person came up needing to get boards cut. And this is about 25 minutes later. And then no one to be found. Finally, someone from the outside that was bringing carts in came to the back, that I've seen 2 or 3 times, came to the back and explained that he's only able to use one of the saws. He didn't know how, or wasn't trained on the other saw. And basically that he needed to wait to get the other saw, but he used one saw. So he got the lady out of her way. That's all she needed to use the one saw, but me and the other guy needed a big saw done. So when we had to wait another about 10 minutes, I want to say, for someone to come off a break. This whole time, the manager about 50 feet away from us was sitting in the office, and I didn't realize this, was sitting in the office, looking out her window, just sitting there. And she wasn't able to, basically, I didn't know what she looked like at this time. I didn't know if it was a male or female, but I seen the 2 people, him talk to the manager, and that's what they pointed to. And I didn't see inside the office when I walked over there, because I walked over there trying to figure out what's going on, But nonetheless, we waited there for about 10 minutes. Finally, someone came off a break, was able to do the big saw. He started sawing and stuff, and while we were standing there while we was basically thinking we was paying attention to the saw, this little girl, manager girl, comes out, rushes around the corner, avoiding us completely. First of all, she was so petite and small, she couldn't even lift the 8x4 plywood that I had. And second of all, if she's a manager, she was not qualified to work and operate a saw in the first place, because if she was able to operate a saw as a manager, you come out and assist the customers, as I was sitting there for nearly sitting there for at least 5 or 10 minutes, and when they first called out on the intercom. And then after about 35 minutes, when the other guy was standing there, if she was able to operate the saw, she should have came out and assisted, because at least she had a man or someone strong enough able to live the 4x8, and then she could have operated system. But no, that wasn't even the issue. We had to wait for another 10, 15 minutes for someone else to get off break to cut our boards. So that's the two stories, and that's the Jezebel spirit that's being fostered and thinking it's acceptable behavior when they're both, here's similarities to the position, their negligence to position. One hid in the office, and when I was talking to the other phone, here's where I'm bad at stories. When I was talking to the veterinarian, asking prices, and she was dodging the prices and jacking up prices, she was dodging and avoiding the situation. So she hid the prices from the customer who was on the phone. So one was hiding the office, one was hiding the prices. Another one couldn't operate the equipment in the her office and buildings where she's supposed to, almost like the secretary in the phone probably couldn't, if she wasn't able to operate. But the similarity to that is the secretary couldn't deliver proper customer service. She then was unfit to the position because she didn't know how to handle a customer who was asking her questions. She was more ashamed of the prices, it seemed, and trying to get me and rush me off the phone than it was taking care of the customer like she's supposed to do in customer service relations. It's called interpersonal relationship skills, which I've learned about in my past history, which everyone should learn about if they're in customer service relationships, such as the secretary who was neglectful to her position. So both the manager, this petite female girl, and this other veterinarian secretary female, they're both unfit to be in the responsibility of the positions. Now, the behavior similarities and the negligence, the one rather sit there in her office and hide and not face us, and then try to run around the corner while we're occupied or preoccupied or not paying attention. Another one was avoiding trying to hide the prices. So the Jezebel spirit behavior behind it, there's both hiding their guilt and shame to the situation where they was in the wrong. And they didn't want to face any man or female, as in the Home Depot. They didn't want to face anyone out there in the world. And instead they want to rush and hide. Oh, I don't want to hear and look in the mirror. I'm going to hang up on you, like the secretary behaved, or stay hiding in the office like the managers. And I was unaware she was in the office until right at the last minute, the last 10 minutes of the situation, when the guy started walking over there to the office. So that's the similarities on that situation. Let's see if I'm looking at a little bit of notes right here. All right, and this is why I say it's a Jezebel spirit. This usually is fostered in females, and they are in these higher positions, I want to say above males and females, but they don't even have any disregard to their employees or anyone underneath them, because this, I'm not going to say his name, but this man who helped us, that's explained to us that he only knew how to do one saw, and he stood with us there for that last 10, 15 minutes, waiting for someone else to return. Thank for him, but she thinks that she is in superior position to him when he is in a superior position to her, even though he was her employee, because he was doing what's right for us customers. Even if he couldn't help us, he was explaining the scenario to us so we can kind of have understanding and maybe have some compassion. But right now I have no compassion for a Jezebel spirit who's hiding in the closet. I have no compassion for a corporation or their higher officials who's going to protect that behavior. Just as the owner replied to me into Google and tried coming to the defense saying she called me multiple times the next day. Well, obviously, she never called me once because I was waiting there for the phone call. I'm here. That's why I'm setting my studio so I can get phone calls to start recording these negligent behavior of these people out here trying to lie to everybody. So, with that being said, I'll get my podcast set up so we can record these negligent people. These are Jezebel spirits that's being fostered all throughout this Topeka area and throughout the state of Kansas, which is a disease and infestation, and what I'm going to speak against, and why there needs to be a podcast here, because I ain't going to put up with it. And if everyone else is pushing or bow down to the U.S. military, who sucks, a Jezebel twat, I can't have no one, there's no one out there. That's why I tell people, my people, you better start standing on doing what's right. Or the situation is for everyone, called for everyone. If you're guilty by association, you have a debt to me. It's called $133 million for supporting that Jezebel spirit who's fostered in the state of Kansas, who kidnapped, drugged, and murdered my children, who's being spread through the whole entire KU and Kansas State universities out here, and being thrown in all these corporations, and thinking these corporations these corporation managers, CEOs have to deal with it. And really, the CEOs, you're going to be found negligent at yourself if you're all going to follow after that one Jezebel spirit. There's a way to do business, and there's a way not to do business. And this is the situation we're in. So I hope this video has recorded me. I hope this video, I know this is going to record the whole video, I hope, because I'm having issues with this live stream, because I may have to tell a story and break it down into short videos, because this story, it's real. And that's what they want to avoid. YouTube, better share this stuff, because it's real. If you want to avoid reality, that's why you're a damn computer. And all you AI followers out there, don't get mad at me when I clown you at the protest events. At least up in Minneapolis, when they get violent, they're doing something right. Because then, when the politicians come and say, please start begging the people, don't get violent, that's the way it should be. They should be on their fucking knees begging the people, saying, please, 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 don't stand up and use democracy against us. Please, we'll do what's right. They shouldn't be fucking avoiding this situation, avoiding the man out here. They shouldn't be harboring and fostering a Jezebel spirit. But here I stand. Let me get some subscribes. Let me get some likes. Y'all have a good day. Here I roll.